12, that is education, nature and purposes. Block 2, that is knowledge in education, which deals with concept and nature of knowledge, ancient Indian concept and nature of knowledge, then medieval or Islamic Indian concept and nature of knowledge. So this particular block deals with what is the nature of knowledge according to the Indian context, specifically during our Vedic times, then in the medieval or Islamic period. So here the concept and nature of knowledge says that knowledge and its transmission is a central concern of education. So as we know that the main focus of education is what? That is transmission of knowledge, so that each and every individual becomes educated and knowledgeable citizen of the society. And what is philosophy? Philosophy is considered as a critical inquiry. The role of philosophy is what in this particular area? It provides the aims and objectives that are to be included in the educational scenario. So, particularly in the paper called Educational Philosophy, which deals about the different philosophical thought process, different schools of philosophy, that is idealism, naturalism, pragmatism, realism. These all schools have their specific contribution in the field of education with respect to the aims and objectives, with respect to the curriculum, with respect to the methodology of teaching. And here we also find the teacher-taught relationship, and finally the type of discipline to be maintained. So all of these schools contribute in the improvement of the entire educational process. So what is the concept of knowledge? The concept of knowledge is studied in a particular branch of philosophy, and that particular branch of philosophy is called as epistemology. So epistemology comes from a Greek word which means that episteme meaning knowledge and logos meaning discourse. So here it is the area of philosophy concerned with the nature and justification of human knowledge. So it deals with the nature and justification of human knowledge. Here we have to say that knowledge is to be justified. It is called as a justified true belief, and that it is a kind of belief supported by the fact that both knowledge and belief can have the same object. Here, beliefs may merely happen to be true, cannot be regarded as knowledge because knowledge is justified belief. Sometimes we say that I believe this, I believe that. That is not to be considered as knowledge. But what is to be considered as knowledge? Those things that can be justified, those things that can be verified, and even if you are having a particular belief that is to be justified, your belief should have different kind of examples or different kind of evidence to be justifiable, then only we can say that particular thing is knowledge. So, a meaningful sentence is what? A meaningful sentence is that which provides the meaning or conveys the truth. A sentence to be meaningful, the words in the sentences should be meaningful. For example, in a sentence we have a group of words, and in grammar we know that the arrangement of words in a grammatical order gives you a sense, and it is known as a sentence. So, to write a meaningful sentence, we should arrange the words in a grammatical logical way, which will give us some meaning. And those words should also have some meaning. Then only the sentence is said to be a meaningful sentence. And when these meaningful sentences, which are capable of being justified and verified, then only we can say that these combine to give us a valid, justified, truthful knowledge. So here, according to John Hosper, there are two requirements for knowing. How are we able to know a particular thing? What are the requirements of knowing? What are the procedures of knowing? First is that objectivity requirement and another one is subjective requirement. Objective requirement is what? That is a particular thing which we want to know must be true by itself, and subjective requirement is what? One must believe it to be true. That is, for example, rose is red color. The flower rose is red color. Here one has to say that I believe that rose is red color, and also it can be proved that yes, if anyone else also sees that, he or she can say that yes, the color of rose, a particular rose which I am holding, is red in color. So here two things according to John Hosper is what? That is objective requirement, another one is subjective requirement. Again, a proposition, for example, we take a proposition as P must be true. One cannot know P if it is not true. So knowing P is knowing P to be true. If you are saying something to be true, the thing itself should be true. Otherwise, you will not be able to prove it. Then, not only must a proposition be true, we must believe that a proposition P is true. That is the subjective requirement. If you yourself do not have a belief that what you are saying is true, then how you will be able to prove it to someone else? जो जिनस को सत बोली आमे कहूचु सेटा निजे इटसेल्फ जिनसटा सत थिबा दरकार पुणी जिए कहूची से जिनसटा सत बोली से निजे विश्वास करथवा दरकार जे जो जिनसटा को मु सत बोली कहूची ता दियरे सत्यता अछि आउ मु भी विश्वास करूची सेटा सत बोलिका. Then necessity of evidence or a reason to believe P. There is a necessity for evidence or a reason to believe a proposition to be true. For example, I know that the sun will rise tomorrow. So this is a truth. Everyone knows it. Why? Because you also know that every morning sun rises up in the east and sets in the west. This is to be considered as a universal truth. So in this way, there is no requirement of evidence in this particular statement. Therefore, this particular statement itself is a statement which holds truth within itself. Then there are three divisions of knowledge. What are the three divisions of knowledge? One is a priori knowledge. This particular word I have been repeating from past 3 classes. What is that? A priori knowledge. What is a priori knowledge? Is that whose truth or falsity can be decided before or without the recourse to experiment. That is, priori comes from the word before. That is, knowledge that is a priori has a universal validity and once recognized as truth does not require any further evidence. For example, we can give the example of logical and mathematical truths, which says that a particular thing is true because here it does not require any kind of evidence. Therefore, this particular statement or knowledge falls under the category of a priori knowledge. That is, logical and mathematical truths are a priori in nature. They do not stand in the need of any empirical validation. What does that empirical validation means? गोटे जिनस को प्रूफ करिया पैंका किछि भी आमुकु एक्सपेरिमेंट करिकी प्रूफ करिवा आवश्यकता नाही. सेटार सत्यता निजे ही सेटा अछि बोली सेथरु जणा पडुची. ता पैंका किछि एक्सपेरिमेंट करिकी फलाफल खोजिबा आवश्यकता नाही. सेई जिनस गुडार एग्जांपल कोउटा ना लॉजिकल और मैथमेटिकल ट्रूथ दैट कम्स अंडर द a priori nature of statement. And what else? A posteriori knowledge, जोटा की तार total opposite विपरीत कथा कोनटा ना. A knowledge is based upon observation, experience, scientific method, stressing accurate observation and exact description. जो जिनसटा को ऑब्जर्व करबा को पड़िबो, जहा को वेरीफाई करबा को पड़िबो, एक्सपेरिमेंटल साइंटिफिक प्रोसेस कैरी आउट करबा को पड़िबो, तार सत्यता खोजिबा को जो स्टेटमेंट ता फाइनली आमे पाइबू that is known as a posteriori knowledge. After conducting the experiment, we'll be able to get the result. Therefore, post experiment, post माने हला परे सेति पाएगा posteriori knowledge बोली कुहाइछि. आगे experiment करा जिवो तापरे फलाफल रे आमे पहुंचीबा सत्यता को परीक्षा करि सारला परे आमे जानि परिबा whether it is falling under the truth or under the falsity part. So here these statements are otherwise known as what? Na synthetic propositions. Synthetic propositions. How? Prior knowledge jota thila, that is known as your analytic propositions. So prior knowledge ro au gote na hochi kono na analytic propositions. Au a posteriori knowledge ro au gote na hela kono na synthetic propositions. So here we have the third division of knowledge. One goes the a priori, second is a posteriori, third one is experienced knowledge. So here from the very word experience we find that after experience only we can say that a particular thing is true or not. So it is always tentative, cannot exist prior to experience or to be concluded from observation. It must be experienced to have value. Experience knowledge ro meaning kono? A particular thing जोटा को तमे knowledge बोली consider करिवो सेइथरे value attached थिबा दरकार सेइटा को निजे आगे अनुभव करथिबा दरकार ताहाले ही तमे सेतरे विश्वास करी कि knowledge बोली ग्राह्य बोली कहि पारिबो. Otherwise you won't accept it, neither you will be able to justify it to be a truth or a knowledgeable thing. Then what are the different theories related to knowledge and truth? So here we find 6 theories. First one is what? That is the revelation theory. Revelation means to reveal something, to open up, to tell something, to express something. So here the truth is to be revealed out, is to be find out. It has to come in front of everybody. So in this revelation of authority is what? That is, this view holds that the final test of the truth of assertion in their consonance with the revelation of authority. We recognize this as one of the oldest theory. Here, weight of authority has played its part in areas other, and in this particular thing, for example, it is said that even the scholars of Galileo time refused to look through the telescope because Aristotle had not indicated this as permissible. For example, जेतेबेले Aristotle research करुथिले telescope धरिकी देखुथिले regarding your different natures of law and different planets and all and stars, सेतेबेले तांकर junior की students मानको allow नथिला देखिबा पेंका सेथिपेंगा गैलीलियो भी से पर्यंत टेलीस्कोप धरि नथिले जे पर्यंत एरिस्टोटल तांको परमिशन देई नथिले. So according to revelation theory, until and unless an authority says that a particular thing is allowed to you, you are not allowed to do that. That is the particular basic theory lying behind the revelation theory. When the authority says yes, you can go for it, or yes, accept that particular thing as truth, then only you will be able to accept it. जे पर्यंत elderly person advice देई नाहंती तांको कथा को आमे सत्य भाबिबा जेतेबेले authority कहबो गोटे particular thing होची सत्य बोली. Until and unless authority गोटे जिंस को सत्य बोली कहिनी आमे as junior ताको accept करि परिबा नाही. That was the first theory of knowledge or truth. Then the second one, the coherence theory. What is the coherence theory? This theory says that a statement is true if it is consistent with other statements accepted as true. Here, one particular statement is considered to be true in comparison with other similar statements which are considered to be true. गोटे पर्टिकुलर वाक्य को सत्य बोली मानिबा जेते बेले ତା ସହିତ ଜଡ଼ିତ ଅନ୍ୟାନ୍ୟ ବାକ୍ୟ ଗୁଡ଼ାର ସତ୍ୟତା already ପ୍ରମାଣିତ ହେଇଥିବ, then only we will accept it as true. So this refers to the coherence theory. Then the presentative theory, present ru presentative. So here this theory holds that reality as presented to the mind in perception is known directly without alteration. Errors of perception occur, but further observation is able to detect and explain them. So presentative theory says that color, shape, odor appear to our senses as true objective characteristics of the object. That is, in this particular theory, our sense organs are considered as the gateway of knowledge. What we see, what we smell, what we hear, and how we feel, that is the temperature, touch, all these things are combined together to receive the knowledge. The way we perceive a thing, the way we intake the knowledge is what is understood as the presentative theory. And according to this theory, those things are considered to be knowledgeable, or those concepts are considered to be truthful, which are observable, whose knowledge can be acquired through our sense organ. Then we see the pragmatic, then we move to the representative theory. What is the representative theory? The representative theory says that our perception of objects are not identical with them. When we perceive truly, our perception is identical with the other perceived. For example, here we see that the object we are perceiving or seeing, are we getting that similar object in our mind? ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ଗଛକୁ ଦେଖୁଛୁ, the concept of ଗଛ ସେଟା ଆମେ ଦେଖିଲୁ, ଜାଣିଲୁ, ସେଇ କନସେପ୍ଟଟା ଆମ ମାଇଣ୍ଡରେ ଇମ୍ପ୍ରିଣ୍ଟ ହେଲା ଗଛର ଚିତ୍ରଟା। ସୋ ଆମ ମାଇଣ୍ଡ ଗଛକୁ ଗଛ ବୋଲି ଯୋଉ ଚିହ୍ନିଲା, ସେଟା ଠିକ ଭାବରେ ବ୍ରେନରେ ପ୍ରିଣ୍ଟ ହେଲା କି ନାହିଁ? ଯେପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଆମେ ଗଛକୁ ଗଛ ବୋଲି ଚିହ୍ନି ନାହୁଁ ଆଉ ଗଛର ପିକ୍ଚରଟା ବ୍ରେନରେ ପ୍ରିଣ୍ଟ ହେଇନି, ସେତେ ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଆମେ ଠିକ ଭାବରେ ଜିନିଷଟାକୁ ଜାଣିପାରିଲୁ ନାହିଁ। That shows that our knowing process has some falsity or has some error or has some fallacy, and we cannot consider that particular knowledge as truth. So in this particular thing, the representative theory states that the thing we perceive should have a proper representation, तार proper image ता brain भितरे थिबा दरकार, ताहले ही आमे कहि परिबा it has the right representation, and accordingly our mind has studied the right thing. Then pragmatic theory. This view holds that statements are true if they work successfully in practice. So here we say that a particular statement is true when we find the workability of that thing. The pragmatist philosopher believe that things which are workable, things which are useful are considered to be truth. Otherwise, जो जिनसर कार्यकारिता नहीं, से जिनसरे सत्यता नहीं. So this was the particular view of pragmatist philosophy or pragmatist theory. Then the intuition theory. What is an intuition theory? So intuition theory says intuition refers to a mysterious and immediate inner source of knowledge apart from both perpetual observation and reasoning. Again, it also designates generally accredited and immediate way of knowing, such as an immediate sensation or immediate awareness. We may have some self-evident or axiomatic truth. For example, you can give the theory or the experiment carried out by your insightful theory. upon which the on different kinds of animals experiments were done. For example, in trial and error theory, we find the experiment was carried on cat. In classical conditioning, experiment was carried on dog. In the similar way, in insightful learning theory, Wolf, Kohler, all these persons have conducted experiment on chimpanzee and a particular chimpanzee, that is Sultan. That particular chimpanzee was there in a cage. Some sticks were there. The chimpanzee had to join those sticks one into another, fitting it into a long stick. And then only the chimpanzee will able to get banana, which was hung at the ceiling. So here the chimpanzee tried again and again. But all of a sudden, that chimpanzee got an idea of fitting the sticks one into another. Then only he was able to get the banana. That sudden flash of knowledge is known as insight. हठात ता मुंडकू पशिला जे जदि मु बाड़ी भितरे बाड़ी खंजिकी गोटे लंबा बाड़ी तैयारी करि परिबी ताहाले मु कदली कांदीटा पाई परिबी काहेकि ना से गोटे पंजरी भितरे बंद हेकी थिला आ पंजरी रो ऊपर टंगा हेतिला गोटे एक्सपेरिमेंट रे पंजरी रो ऊपर टंगा हेतिला कदली कांदी आ गोटे एक्सपेरिमेंट रे पंजरी बाहर भी थुआ हेतिला से दीटा केस रे बाड़ी खंजिले बाड़ीटा लंबा हेले ही टाणी की काढी हेई परिबो पाखुकू आनी हेई परिबो कदली कांदी चिंता करी करिका हठात ता ब्रेन को ई जिंसटा आसिला से जो हठात बुद्धि पसिबा इज नोन एज योर सडन फ्लैश ऑफ लाइट इनसाइट ताहाले इंट्यूशन थ्योरी रा माने कोन दैट इज ऑल ऑफ अ सडन द नॉलेज कम्स इन इट इज सेल्फ एविडेंट आकु आ प्रमाण करबा को किछ नाही सो हियर इट रेफर्स टू मिस्टीरियस इमीडिएट इनर सोर्स ऑफ नॉलेज ए जिंसटा केही काहा को सिखै नथिले इवन से चिंपांजी माकड़ को भी केही सिखै नथिला सी ऑल ऑफ अ सडन एम्प्टी रिएक्ट कला देयरफॉर दिस पर्टिकुलर थ्योरी इज नोन एज intuition theory where the knowledge comes all of a sudden. Then what are the different sources of knowledge? The different sources of knowledge says that knowledge through sense experience. So here knowledge through sense experience is what? That is by seeing, by smelling, by touching, by tasting and by hearing. So these all are the agencies through which we get the reliable authentic knowledge. So sometimes there is also error in what? The way we perceive a thing. Therefore it has been told that one has to observe a thing again and again, then only one should be able to get the right perception and accordingly you will be able to give the right judgment. Then here we think mental operations are carried out after perceiving. Mental operations are carried out within your brain or mind and accordingly you take your rational judgments. Then knowledge through reason. What is knowledge through reason? Certain type of knowledge, for example 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 are arrived by means of reasoning. That is giving an example of mathematics. That is 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Here there are two types of reason. One is the deductive reasoning, another one is inductive reasoning. Logic jahar plus 2 रे थिबो एई पर्टिकुलर ब्लॉक माने बुझिया पेगा बहुत हेल्पफुल हबो. That is deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning. So in deductive reasoning the conclusion is logically coming out from the premises. What are the premises? The first premise is what? All men are mortal. The second premise is what? John is a man. Finally, what is the conclusion? Therefore, he is mortal. So, mortality is a quality which is found in human beings, can be deduced from this particular deductive reasoning. That is, all men are mortal. John is a man. Therefore, he is mortal. Again, If it is raining, the streets will be wet. It is raining, therefore the streets will be wet. ବର୍ଷା ହେଲେ ରାସ୍ତା ଓଦା ହବ. So ବର୍ଷା ହଉଛି ତା ମାନେ ରାସ୍ତା ଓଦା ହବ. So ଦିଟା statement ରୁ conclusion ଟା ବାହାରିବାକୁ deductive reasoning ବୋଲି କୁହାଯାଏ. But we have to see that whether the argument is valid or not. ଏଠି ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ example ଦିଆ ହେଇଛି. All cows are green. She is a cow. Therefore, she is green. Even though the conclusion comes out from the premises, but here the argument is not valid. How can a human being be a cow? Again, how can a human being become a green in color? So here, this argument is in a way we cannot accept it. So the conclusion follows from the premise, but the premises are not true. Therefore, the entire thing is totally false. Again, if we consider some more examples are also there. In order to know that a conclusion is true, what is the requirement? First thing, the premises should be true. Second thing, the argument is to be valid. Then only we can say that the conclusion is to be, the conclusion that we get will be a valid one. So, if the conclusion is true, we have to know that all the premises are true and that the argument is valid. Then we see the inductive reasoning. What is the inductive reasoning? Here the conclusion is not certain but only probable to certain degree. We are not sure about the entire area of study. We are only sure about some samples. Therefore, there lies probability in this particular conclusion. So here, example is that crow 1 is black in color, crow 2 is black in color, and crow 3 is black in color. So here we conclude that all crows are black in color. But this is an approximation. This is not 100% reality. It may so happen if we go for an experiment and see, after conducting experiment on 1000 crows, we find 1001 crow to be white in color. It may so happen. So in inductive reasoning, we are having a degree of probability which is not found in the deductive. Deductive reasoning follows to the entire class of thing, but inductive reasoning is always dealing with probability. Then what about authority? So authority says we accept certain things as true on the basis of authority. Just because authority has told, sometimes we consider that particular thing to be authentic, reliable, and believable, and even that particular thing we considered as to be true. But one should also judge the authenticity of the statement given by the authority. That is, here the statement given by the authority, the person who told that must be really an authentic person and also a specialist in that particular field. Second, you yourself should verify the knowledge whether the knowledge given by authority is valid, reliable, and acceptable or not. Then the authority should be able to provide evidence and proof. Here, verification is required. Logical explanation is needed. Then the knowledge claimed by the authority should have acceptance by the community members. So here one has to see, that is, the knowledge that is provided by the authority is acceptable by the entire community and society. Then only we can say that the knowledge provided by the authority is acceptable and is to be considered as real knowledge. Then what is intuition? It is a label for a certain kind of experience when a conviction of certainty comes upon us quite suddenly like a flash. So as I was saying, for example, you take the Archimedes principle, which when Archimedes was able to solve the puzzle given by the king, he went about naked throughout the road saying, Eureka, Eureka, I have found it. All of a sudden, Archimedes was able to find the solution. In the same way, knowledge which comes all of a sudden falls under the category of intuition. And we have examples from history of different scientific investigations and mathematical discoveries where the knowledge was discovered through intuition and proved to be valid also. So, intuition is all about sudden flash of light or knowledge. Then, what is revelation? This source has some problem as intuition. Here we see that it was revealed to me in a dream or a vision. What if a person had a vision that told him one thing and another person had a vision that told him the opposite? For example, what is revelation? In your dream, you had a vision and you considered that particular vision to be true. Here you are not able to prove the authenticity of that particular thing. Another person had another vision and he is saying something contradictory to you. तमको जो स्वप्नटा आसिला तमे कहूचो मु जो स्वप्नटा देखिली सेथिरे सत्यता अछि ताले प्रमाण करो, but you are not able to give any kind of pramana, you are not able to give any kind of evidence. Another person also told that I had also dreamt about something, but तमे जहा कहूचो टोटल तार विपरीत कथा मु स्वप्न रे देखिली, ताले कहा स्वप्न रे सत्यता अछि आ किए सत कहूची आ स्वप्न रे जहा घटी आसिला तार प्रमाण किए दबो. So revelation is a part of thing which is to be considered as a vision. So it is very difficult to give the authenticity of your visions or revelations. Then faith. What about faith? You have your own faith, your own religious beliefs and practices. How can one prove about something related to faith? So here, faith is a firm belief in something for which there is no evidence. It is an attitude of belief in something in the presence of evidence. One says that I believe God exists. Another says, prove me that God exists. One says, दिन राति जीए कले सीए भगवान. आउ जने कहूची भगवान को कोठी देखिलो, केमी देखिलो, तांको मापी की चुपी की मते प्रमाणित करा. So that is very difficult. Even faith is a thing which is very difficult to give evidence or any kind of valid source of knowledge. Then the nature of knowledge.
Madam?
This is what?
Madam?
Yes. What happened?
Ma'am, I have a question. Is knowledge individualistic in nature?
Two of you are asking.
Huh?
Both of you are asking. Somebody else also. Hello?
Madhav Naik.
Someone else is also there. Yes. What happened? Ask.
Ma'am, I am asking, is knowledge individualistic in nature?
Is
Knowledge individualistic in nature?
belief is individualistic in nature, not knowledge. Knowledge is something which is acceptable universally, and that thing which is told to be, which is considered to be knowledge, one has to prove it. It is not a personal opinion. One has, majority of us can prove it. It is verifiable. It is nothing to do with the individual opinion. Belief has something to do with individual opinion. Faith has individual opinion. Even that relevance which I was talking about, that is also having individual opinion. But knowledge is something which is to be shared with everyone. Had it been something individual opinion, then why will you understand a thing which an individual says that he is right? Nothing to do with it. That is his own personal affair. Why will you interfere into that? But knowledge is something which is to be shared by all.
Okay.
So therefore, it has nothing to do with individual thing. When it comes to individual thing, it comes to your belief category.
Yes, ma'am.
And knowledge is something which has validity, authenticity, and can be verified by majority. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, understood.
Then we see what is classification. So what is classification? No two things are exactly alike in the universe in all aspects. For example, animals are classified into what? The definition given by zoologist is different. Another, if one has a fur industry, he gives another definition of animals. Another who has a leather industry, he gives another definition of it. So one classifies a thing to his own personal desire and interest. So classification, for example, I have seen a dog. A person who is more focused and wants to classify what kind of dog, then one will say that I have seen a Pomeranian dog or I have seen a Labrador. So he is becoming more specific regarding that. He is classifying a thing. So classification is also one of the important characteristics or of nature of knowledge. Then generalization. A generalization is a statement expressing relationship between or among concepts. To generalize is to treat things may appear to be different as if they are the same. So here we say that, for example, thrones are the official chairs of rulers. Raja manako pai singhasana achi, which is to be considered as their judgmental seat. ता उपरे सेमाने बसिकी राज्य भार संभाळंती. It is a generalized concept. This has seen in every kingdom. सबु रूलर मानकर अच्छी सिंहासन अच्छी समस्त से बसिकी राज्य अभिषेक हुए से माने राज्य कार्य कला बेलू that in their court they sit upon their thrones and give judgments. So this is a generalized statement. It is not found in a single king or with a single person. It is not to be taken as an individualistic approach. Rather, it is a general thing which is found in each and every kingdom. So, for example, heated metals expand. That is true. This is also an example of generalization. So, generalization is something where we find or express relationship between or among concepts. Then the laws. Scientific knowledge begins only when we begin to notice regularities in the course of events. Nature does contain regularities. We have prediction and control attached to it. For example, we can say a particular baby has a temperature of 105 °F. This is a singular statement because this particular example is given for a particular child. But when we say that aspirin tablet reduces fever is a general statement. Whenever we find some symptoms relating to fever, we can take aspirin and that shows a similar kind of result in a person who has taken it. So here it is a general statement. Again, what is to do with the singular statement and general statement? Law statements such as Newton's law of motion or your Boyle's law make assertion that a relationship exists between two or more concepts. Each of the concept is tied to observable phenomena, either directly or indirectly. Here, one has to say that laws consist of different interrelated concepts. A law is framed after going through evidence and experimentation. That is, for example, the law of gravity. After thorough experimentation, after seeing the interrelationship between the different concepts, then only it was proved. Again and again it was proved and verified. Then the final law came out. So one has to observe the phenomena, one has to see the interrelationship between phenomena, and then only prepare the law. And then only it will be considered as a knowledgeable thing. Then prescriptive laws and descriptive laws. What are they? Laws of nature are descriptive. They describe the way nature works. କେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ କହିପାରିବା ଗୋଟେ law କୁ descriptive? The very word descriptive word ରୁ ଆମେ ଜାଣୁଛୁ ଯେ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ describe କରାହଉଛି ବୋଲି ତାକୁ descriptive କୁହାଯାଉଛି. Therefore, the way the nature works is what about the descriptive laws. Nature ର କାର୍ଯ୍ୟକଳାପ ଯେମିତି ରହୁଛି, ତାର ଫଙ୍କସନିଂ ଯେମିତି ରହୁଛି, ସେଇ ବିଷୟରେ ଯୋଉ ନିୟମାବଳୀ ଗୁଡ଼ା ଏକ୍ସପ୍ଲେନ୍ କରାଯାଉଛି, ଡିସ୍କ୍ରାଇବ୍ କରାଯାଉଛି, that comes under your descriptive laws. For example, how do planets revolve? Do they have orbits or not? Earth has revolution and rotation process. Revolution causes your seasonal changes. Rotation causes the day and night. Then, what are the prescriptive laws? Here, something we see that, for example, the laws of nature are a smaller class of proposition than empirical statements in general. Any statement whose truth can be tested by observation of the world is an empirical proposition. So here, those things which can be empirically verified, that is through evidence, through experimentation, are considered to be laws. And prescriptive and descriptive things are what? Those things which we can tell or prescribed about things, that these all things are going to happen. Sun rises in the east and sets in the west. It happened years back. It was there yesterday also, today also, and even day after tomorrow also. So these all things come under the prescriptive and descriptive laws. Then the characteristics of laws of nature. It must be true, universal, and empirical proposition. True, universal, and empirical proposition, what does that mean? कथाटा सत थिबो, यूनिवर्सल समस्ते घेनुथिबे आ मानुथिबे, एम्पिरिकल प्रमाण तथ्य यथेष्ट थिबो, that is a प्रमाणित thing. It is universal truth or that which is acceptable by all. So applicable to all member of the given class. For example, iron rust. Some iron rust and all iron rust. लुहाटा जंग खाईगला जो आमे कहूछु, जोउटी भी रखो जंग खाइबो. When it comes in contact with oxygen, it starts rusting. So here, this is something which is applicable to the entire class of luha. Entire luha जो material आमे कहूछु, जो metal बोली consider करछु, if we do have different kind of experiments, if we conduct that can be experimentally proven. Then this is not always the case in behavioral science, but because human nature keeps on changing. The way I am reacting or behaving today in a particular situation, it may not so happen just like exactly, or it will not be the Xerox copy of today's activity. Depending upon the situation, depending upon my mood, it may so happen I may react in a different way. So in behavioral science, this is something different. But in physical science, the laws can be verified time and again. Having that particular temperature with that particular chemical scenario, we can prove it. Then Here we see universal propositions are hypothetical in form. What does the very word hypothetical mean? It lays emphasis upon if, then, for. जदि एटा हबो ताले एटा हबो, जदि एटा घटिला ताले एमती हेई पारे, जदि एमिति न घटिला ताले एमती हबो नाही. If so and so happen, then only the result will be that. If this thing doesn't happen, then the result will not be that. So here, all iron rust when exposed to oxygen. If there is iron, it will rust when exposed to oxygen. जदि से मेटल टा आयरन थिबो आ जदि सेटा ऑक्सीजन संस्पर्श रे आसुथिबो ताहाले ही आमे कहि परिबा जे आयरन टा जंके गला. जदि से मेटल टा आयरन नथिबो आ जदि ऑक्सीजन संस्पर्श रे आसी नहीं ताले से मेटल टा आउ किछि, ताले केमिकल रिएक्शन आउ किछि हबो. So here universal propositions are here hypothetical in form. So we have some if and then relationship over here. If P is true, then Q is true. If P is not true, then Q is also not true. Then a law of nature is open-ended. It has an infinite range both in time and space. It has an open class with no structures of time and space. So it is not a time-bounded thing. It is infinite. It is not finite. So here it has no boundary. It is an open-ended thing. So here we can give the example that is, for example, all the chickens in this poultry are white. This is limited in it. For example, I am having a poultry farm and their chickens are there and all of them are white in color. Here I am giving an example of a definite area in space and time. But what about the open class with no restriction? I can also say that chickens found out in anywhere else also they are white in color. For example, all crows are black in color. So here we say that the claim of the laws of nature extends into the future and this enables them to be made the base for prediction. So here after experimenting so many crows and after seeing so many crows as black, I can say that the very class of crow, all of them are black in color. Then a law of nature should have some indirect evidence for it. For example, laws of science are not viewed in independence of one another. Together they form a vast body or system with each law mutually reinforcing to others. So here we have to say that in when you are conducting any experiment in science, we see the different atoms and molecules or compounds, they interact with each other to give a new thing. So in this way, there is an interaction going on. There is a chemical reaction going on. Then only you are finding a particular conclusion or a particular compound is formed. In the same way, we have to say that they do not exist independently. These all things are interacting and finally giving out a result. And they are mutually reinforcing each other. That means दिहे दिहा को प्रभावित करूचंती आ उभय प्रभावित भी होउचंती. All metals are good conductors of heat. So this is something to do with the laws of science. Again, universal proposition whose degree of generality is greater are more likely to pass a law. For example, all metals are good thermal conductors. So this particular laws, when we are dealing with the laws and theories, we find every time the example comes from a science background, because it is very difficult to give example from behavioral science. Since we are dealing with human behavior or human nature, it is very difficult to cite exact example for them. Then what is a theory? Theories are statements that explain a particular segment of phenomena by specifying certain relationship among variables. Theory रे variables अच्छी प्रथम कथा, variables भितरे inter relationship अच्छी second कथा, inter relationship हेला भितरे जो type of reaction interaction चालुची, a new phenomena or outcome is coming out. So a theory has all these sub concepts attached to it, and finally it gives the relationship of different variables that are within that particular theory. A theory is general in its approach and it is not specific in nature like facts and principles. गोटे फैक्ट गोटे विषय जिनस उपरे कुहे, गोटे प्रिंसिपल पिन पॉइंटेड स्पेसिफिक जिनस उपरे कुहे, किंतु गोटे थियोरी बहुत गुडे फैक्ट रो टोटल कॉम्बो पैक भड़िया थाए कि बहुत गुडे प्रिंसिपल्स रो फैक्ट्स रो वेरिएबल्स रो इंटरैक्शन और इंटर रिलेशनशिप हे साला परे जो फलाफलटा बाहरे that is known as a theory, and the thing is the process is known as theorizing. So theories relate, explain, predict wider varieties of experimental and observational finding in the simplest and efficient way. Theory रो काम कोन सहज उपाय रे गोटे जिंस को बुझेइबा, गोटे जिंस विषय रे प्रेडिक्शन दबा, भविष्य रे कोन हेई पारे, कोन हबो, कोन हबार संभावना अछि in a very efficient way. काहे कि ए सब थियोरी करि पारे because it has efficient good number of evidences. सेति की तथ्य अछि जोटा हेल्प करे थियोरी को प्रमाण जोगेई दिए. Those things are authentic evidences. Scientific theories serve as a means and ends in the development of science. So these theories act as the means and they are the product of experimentation, observation, and they help in the development of science. So here in scientific theory, predictions are generated and empirically tested. Even we have hypothesis. कौन हेले कौन हबो एटा हेई थाई थिबो जदी या हेला cause and effect relationship we search for that. Sometimes the hypothesis is retained, sometimes we reject the hypothesis. They are known as tentative solution. आकु धरी नै कि आमे खोजू कारण कोन, कारण रे पहुंची सरला परे आमे जानिबा जे आमे जो रास्ता दे कि आस्थिलु सेटा ठीक थिला कि नाही. गोटे पिलाटा स्कूल आसुनी कोन पई का स्कूल आसुनी, तार क्लास टीचर ताको बारंबार गाଳି दउछनी सेथि पई, स्कूल प्रति तार भय अछि सेथि पई, ता देह खराब सेथि पई, ना सथरे से ओडा दुष्ट पिलाटा सेथि पई. So these are some of the hypotheses. आ सबु गुडा लाइन रे आमे यदि सर्च करिबा, गोटे केस स्टडी करिबा, ताहले आमे कोन करि परिबा, आ भितरु को ऑप्शन टा को हाइपोथेसिस टा को आमे रिटेन करिबा आ बाकी को तीनटा को आमे रिजेक्ट करिबा. सेही अनुसारे we have to go for your data collection and accordingly you have to go for a questionnaire, interviewing the guardian, the parents, the school authorities, his friend circle, and finally coming out with a conclusion and saying that so and so was the reason behind of the student not coming to the school. Then difference between a law and a theory. So what is the difference between a law and a theory? Here laws are overt observation or laboratory procedures are available to give operative meaning to the terms in the relationship, whereas theories no such direct procedures are possible. गोटे लॉ को प्रमाण करिबा पई का हमें लैबोरेटरी को लोको को नै कि देखै दे परिबा सही टाइप ऑफ सिचुएशन और सही टाइप ऑफ टेम्परेचर हो कि सही टाइप ऑफ हमर प्रेशर हो सहीटा को नै कि हमें अरेंज कर दे परिबा. बट अ थ्योरी इज समथिंग व्हाट which is not directly related to any kind of evidence. theory टा सब बेले गोटे written matter रे रहला. Theory is always a theory. When the theory comes out and gets involved in the practical aspect, तापरे आमे कहि परिबा जे practically या हला. आमे maxims गुडा पढू as theory, but classroom teaching रे practically lesson plan तैयारी कर सरला परे we do it or carry out practically. So learning a thing is a different, it is a theory, and practically carrying out is a different thing. So here laws are observable. Laws can be seen through experimentation in laboratory condition, whereas theory have no such direct procedures. There are no such direct procedures to prove it. So difference between a fact and a theory. So again, fact is something we already know. A theory states things that are not yet observed. For example, there is a sun in the sky right now. दिन बेले आमे जनकु कहूछु सूर्य कोठी एटी मझी आकाश रे अछि. This is a fact. The person can see, even you who is showing, that person is also able to see. But when we go for something else, that is theory, theory states that they are not yet observed. For example, in protons and electrons, they are not observable in the naked eye. You have to conduct experiment so as to see. So theories often offer a crude and general explanation of a phenomenon. So theories give a general conclusion, but here discovery of facts is essential in order to determine whether a theory can be confirmed or rejected. But facts are pinpointed specific information, and if facts are combined, then only they give result to theory. So refined and modified knowledge in the presence of facts is known as your theory. जेतेबेले विभिन्न फैक्ट्स तथ्य गुडा को आनिकी संग्रहण करा जिवो गोटे कंबाइंड कलेक्टिव वे रे देखा जिवो रिफाइंड वे रे रखा जिवो देन ओनली थियोरी रो जन्म हबो. Then what is explanation? A great advantage of theory is that they possess tremendous explanatory power. Without them, no advance in any field of knowledge would be possible. So here, explanation is required. Explanation नथिले in-depth understanding हबनी. Theory को बुझेबा को पड़िबो. Theory को गोटे जिंस को practically carry out करिबा को हेले ही आमे जानिबा जो जिंसटा जो तथ्यटा theory रे लेखा जाईची केते दूर सेटा जुक्ति जुक्तर और केते दूर सेटा विश्वास योग्य can only be proved when it is experimentally explained and given evidences. So for example, why does a book fall if dropped? गोटे बहीटा को ऊपर थोइले तळ को फसी की पड़िला कि पेनटा धरची छाड़ी देले तळे पड़िला काहे की हला सेमती ड्यू टू द ग्रेविटेशनल पुल. Theory lekha aigala law of gravity, that is the theory. It is big bada chapter taapare achi laws guda gote pare gote achi, but practically proof kariba ko hele explanations guda darkar. Then the particular facts may be known from direct observation or by the hypothesis. Hypothesis भी बेले बेले करा जाए so that हमें proof करि परिबा जे को hypothesis ता finally तार कारण एटा घटिबारे. So one has to see the cause and effect relationship so as to understand a theory in detail. Then there are some unsatisfactory explanations. Explanation सबु बेले जो आमे cause and effect एया घटना घटिला आ पछरे कारण कोन घटना घटिबा आ कारण रो रिलेशनशिप को बुझेइबा पैका एक्सप्लेनेशन यूज करा जाए. बेले बेले गोटे प्रश्न तुमको पचरा गला तमर एक्सप्लेनेशन टा कि तमर उत्तरटा केते दूर से प्रश्न जे पचारिची ताकू संतुष्ट करि परला न करि परला depends upon the way you explain a person. You are asking me a question, whether I am able to satisfy you or not depends upon my explaining the answer to you. So here there are some unsatisfactory explanation. For example, why does morphine put people to sleep? Morphine खाइले लोक माने काहेकि सोई जाती? Because it is sporific. गोटे लेमैन को मु जदि कहिबी साधारण लोक को जे एटा स्पोरिफिक बोलिका आकु कुहा जाए जे मॉर्फिन खाइले कौन हबो ना निद आसीबो किंतु सेतिकी बेले मते बुझेइबा दरकार जे जहार गोटे केमिकल केमिस्ट्री ऊपर आइडिया नहीं कि मॉर्फिन माने से ठीक से बुझी पारुनी कि स्पोरिफिक टर्म से माने जानी पारुनी ताले सेतले कोन करा जिवो ताले निहाती भाबरे ताकु गोटे प्रांजल भाबरे बुझेइबा को पड़िबो जे सेही जिंस रे एई भले भाबरे केमिकल कंपोजिशन अछि जोटा मनिष जदि ग्रहण करिवो ताहाले ताकु ड्राउजी लागिवो कि निद आसीबो आउ ता सेंस ऑर्गन गुडा धीरे धीरे धिमेई जिवो आउ ढुळेला भलिया ड्राउजीनेस डेवलप हबो ड्रिजीनेस और ड्राउजीनेस हबो सो हियर को उत्तरटा ठीक जोडा स्पोरोफिक कहली सेटा भल लागिला ना जोटा डिटेल कहि के एक्सप्लेन कली सेटा भल लागिला सो जेते बेले अनसैटिस्फैक्टरी एक्सप्लेनेशन दिया जिवो सेते बेले गोटे जिंस मनिष मुंड भितरे नॉलेज टा पसी परिबो नाही जदि नॉलेज को भल भाबरे पहुंचेया को इच्छा ताहले थियोरीज गुडा को बुझेइला बेले proper explanation is required otherwise unsatisfactory explanation will lead to ambiguity and disinterest in that particular topic then explanation and prediction for example हमें weather forecasting करूछु जे एति भितरे हमर फन्नी गला कि गोटे आसिला साइक्लोन आसिला all these things how is it possible meteorological department has some theories to see has some laws to see same type ro situations गुडा से माने देखिलारु से मान को काउंटिंग करी कि ताका एक्सपेरिमेंट करी कि जो मेजरमेंट भारुची meteorological department रू on that basis they are able to do predictions या हेले या हबो बोली से माने हाइपोथेसिस टा को रखिले या से माने देखिया को पाइले सेति बाइंगा से माने कहि पारुचंती प्रेडिक्ट करि पारुचन जे या हबो आ से या घटोची भी their prediction comes to true becomes true so here even computers help a lot in predicting so here we can say that technology has also helped a lot in explanation and in also prediction what are the ultimate laws mane kon here we can explain an event by means of laws. We can often explain the laws by means of other laws or theories and these in turn by other laws and theories and so on. A mane kono? For example, ultimate laws mane at the end. Ultimate means at the end. At the higher order. तापरे आउ किछि हेई परिबनी. That is the end point. So here ultimate laws means these are the laws which include some smaller laws. किछिटा छोटो छोटो नियमावली को नै कि ओडे टोटल ओवरऑल बड़ धरणर ultimate law is called that kind of thing which is something bigger which consists of smaller laws which are interrelated with each other which helps to define something bigger. Therefore they are known as ultimate laws. For example, why did the pipes burst? आमे जेतले गछरे पानी दउछु हमर बगीचा रे कि गार्डन रे we use pipes water pipes so water expands on freezing जेते बेले टेम्परेचर टा कमी जाउची आ फ्रीजिंग पॉइंट को आसी जाउची सेते बेले को पाइप रे जाउथुआ पानी टा फ्रीज हेई गला सेइति पाइंगा पाइप टा मोर फाटी गला ताले एथरे केते गुडे लॉज इन्वॉल्व हैला सेथि पाइंका जेते बेले मु एटा को बुझौची टू एक्सप्लेन द अल्टीमेट लॉज दैट इज व्हाट पाइप काहे की बर्स्ट करी गला आई हैव टू गो थ्रू दीज आर स्मॉलर लॉज और explain these so that I'll be finally able to tell why did the pipes burst. So ultimate law is by definition is what? Which this cannot be done. One always explains in terms of something else. जोटा बुझेबा पाइका अलगा किछि जिंसर साहाଯ୍य निया जाय थाए अलगा कोनोसी लॉज रो हेल्प निया जाय थाए, that particular thing is known as your ultimate law. Again, what do you mean by hierarchy of explanation? गोटे क्रम अनुजाई बुझेवा कथा, from simple to complex, from known to unknown. That is known as your hierarchy of explanation. First, a general theory is there, then it should be well established, then the facts are there presented in a simple to complex manner, then in a logical consequence we try to explain. So here it follows a hierarchy of explanation so that it can be explained in a very satisfied manner, and the person who wants to know something will able to get the right concept. Knowledge टा ठीक से ता पाखरे पहुंची पारिबो, प्रांजल भावरे in detail, in depth understanding will be there. Then the role of purpose in explanation. उद्देश्य कौन, बुझेवा पछरे उद्देश्य कौन. Our dissatisfaction with many scientific explanations may be traced to our relating explanation, the concept of purpose. Science only sees how things happen, it cannot tell us why things happen. कौन घटिला हमको साइंस कहिदेला, या एमती हैला, काहे की हैला, that is a different chapter. But one should always understand काहे की, ताहले ही आमे टोटल जिनसर कॉन्सेप्ट को बुझी परिबा. So what and why are interrelated. Why refers to the purpose, what refers to the incident. So purposive explanation are the oldest type of explanation. So those explanations are important which give us the answer to the why part. एभलिया भावरे बुझेबा कथा जोटा की कारण दर्शौथुबो, जोटा कहिले उदाहरण सहित पिलाटा बुझी पारुथुबो आ नॉलेज टा ठीक से पहुंची पारुथुबो. सेति पयका पर्पसिव एक्सप्लेनेशन इज रिक्वायर्ड. Okay, so purpose means what? Intent of a conscious being or function. So purposive explanations are acceptable only when there are conscious beings who can conceive purposes and carry them out. Man, मनीष गोटे रैशनल बीइंग, तार बुझीबार शक्ति अछि, से युक्तियुक्त भावरे चिंता करिकी डिसीजन नै पारिबो. सेथि पयका ता पयका purposive explanation लोड़ा. Therefore purposive explanation is required to understand a thing in detail. Then succession of theories. A theory is formulated by a scientist through the process of induction which explains the observed fact. For example, Galileo's law of free fall or law of tides. Galileo जो लॉ ऑफ ग्रेविटी कहिथिले ताको फ्री फॉल बोली कुआ होची, आउ ढेउ ऊपर जो लॉ टा कहिथिले लॉ ऑफ टाइड्स, एगुडा कोन ना गोटे थ्योरी नो, गोटे परे गोटे थ्योरीज गुडा अटैच्ड अछि. Therefore these are known as succession of theories, or here group of theories one after the another, they are attached with each other to form the entire concept. ताहले ही से लॉटा बुझिए परिबो. अधा की फाळिकिया थ्योरी एटारे काम दबो नाही, टोटल जिंस को बुझिवा को अछि. Some more than one number of things are in attached so that you will be able to understand the entire law. Then here higher theories cover more ground than all the lower ones put together. ता माने लोअर कॉन्सेप्ट रो थ्योरीज गुडा को अटैच करिकी बड़ हायर धरणर थ्योरीटा हेची. देयरफॉर सक्सेशन ऑफ थ्योरीज बोली कुआ जायची. जेहेतु एटा गोटे थ्योरी नो, आ भितरे डिफरेंट सब थ्योरीज गुडा अटैच्ड हेची. ओके, देन a theory can be refuted or falsified. केते बेले गोटे थ्योरी को नाकच करा जिवो, अमान्य दिया जिवो आ ताको मानिबानी by a new theory which is more justifiable and scientific. An existing theory can be replaced by a successive new theory with its better explanatory power. पुणी एठी गोटे कथारे असुविधा पशिला कोन ना गोटे थियोरी को आज जाए आमे सत्य बोली मानि आस्तुलु. We were accepting it as true, as valid, as a part of knowledge, but all of a sudden something new pop out, something new came up. With new discoveries and inventions, something new came out which told that that particular theory is not to be used anymore. तार आउ किछि कार्यकारिता रहिलानी. सेथिपई एबे आमे कोन करिवु से पुराना थियोरी को छाडी देकी नुआ थियोरी को एक्सेप्ट करिवु. नुआ थियोरी रो कार्यकारिता को देखिकी आमे ताकू प्रैक्टिकली कैरी आउट करिबा. सो गोटे जिंस जे थियोरी रे कन्वर्ट हे गेला सेटा केबे बदली बनी सेमतिया माने नाही. Depending upon the new discoveries and inventions, even a theory can be changed. Again, what is a validation of knowledge? So validation of knowledge गोटे ज्ञान को जे valid बोली कुआ जाय परिबो केते बेले ना through sense experience, reasoning, authority. These are some of the sources which tell that that particular knowledge is valid. Empirically and logically verified. Empirically और logically जदि verified हे परिबो ताहले आमे आकू accept करिबा, नचेत we will refute it, we will reject it. For example, a pot of water is there. After heating that pot, the water becomes, the temperature of the water rises. That can be proved. आमे नेलु से पात्रटा को निया ऊपर बसेइलु, गरम कलु, water starts boiling. This can be proved here. But our just ulta example ta kono? Saturn is made of green cheese. Ebe scientists are saying the planet Saturn is made up of some green color cheese like thing. Cheese भलिया जिंस अगुआ रंग सेही टाइप ऑफ जिंस रे तयारी हेछि बोली कहउचंदी कोन ना सैटर्न प्लैनेट ता. बट आमे एठी बसी की हठात कि ना सैटर्न प्लैनेट ऊपर एक्सपेरिमेंट करि परिबा की? नो. So here this particular thing is just beyond the empirical content. So some of the things are empirically proved and some of the things we are not empirically able to prove it out. There is an example over here. For example, statements like 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 has no empirical content. It is an analytical statement. It is a mathematical statement. But when we consider that is water is composed of H2O, we can prove it. That is 2 parts of hydrogen and 1 part of oxygen. So here to verify a proposition is to make such observation where P is true or false is to be found out. गोटे proposition को आमे proposition को short form रे P बोली डाकुचु. So here a particular statement P is true or false has to be verified. Again ता धिरे verification करिबार योग्यता अछि कि नाही, जिंसटा verified हेई परिबो कि नाही, that is also important. जदि गोटे जिंसटा verification हेई परिबनी ताले हमें verify करिबा केमिति? So here ability to go through the process of verification is also important. Then केते बेले verification ता करिबा दरकार? When must the verification take place? जो घटना तो ऑलरेडी घटी गलानी, हिस्ट्री को कोन हमें रिवाइंड करि परिबा? गीतटा सुनुचु, पॉज मारिलु, बैक कलु, रिवाइंड कलु, पछकु गलु, लिरिक्स ता सुनि नथिलु, सुनिलु, फॉरवर्ड मारिलु, आगु को गलु, फेर सुनिलु, मझिरे पॉज मारिछु, प्लेटा दबाई देले, संग संगे जोडी छाडतिलु सेठी पहुंचिलु. किंतु हिस्ट्री रे तो सेमति करि हबनी, हिस्टोरिकल फैक्ट्स तो सेमति करि हबनी. ताहले केते बेले गोटे जिंस को वेरीफाई करि हबो? जोटा ऑलरेडी घटी गलानी, व्हाट अबाउट दैट? जोटा आगु को आसुची, व्हाट अबाउट दैट? जोटा वर्तमान अछि, व्हाट अबाउट दैट? तीनटा टाइम रो एग्जांपल दिया गला. So here prediction can be done. आउ जो predictions गुड़ा करा हितला, one has to wait and observe whether the predictions are coming true or not. Then only we can say the things which we had predicted came to be true, and that is verified. So one will predict and wait for the verification. Again, verification karibo kiye? By whom must the verification be performed? Enu tenu loko verify karibani. One should have the content knowledge. One should have that laboratory setup. Then only we can say. So verification, when we are confronted with a statement about something other than our own experiences, when we have to find out through some procedure whether the statement is true, by whom must the verification be performed? It must be performed by a person who feels that the thing which was acceptable till today is no more acceptable. जो पर्यंत आमे जानिलु जे आजि जाय गोटे जिनसटा ग्राह्य थिला, किंतु एई मुहूर्तरु सेटा ग्राह्य नुह. काहे कि ग्राह्य नुह? सेई मुहूर्तरु एक्सपेरिमेंट आरंभ हैला. किछि गोटे ता धियारे अननेचुरल जिनस देखा गला. समथिंग did not match to the theory. There was a mismatch. Therefore, we are conducting verification. नॉल तो सुरखुरे सब चलथिला चलिया उदे थांतो. किछि गोटे देखा गलारु something unusual which led for the verification. So here, how can statements with an infinite or indefinitely large range ever be verified? So here it is very difficult to verify a class which has no end. Jemti ki the example of all crows are black. We can say it. Number of crows upare cow man ko upare देखिलु कहिलु जे प्राय जत्ते को आमे काउ देखिलु सबु black color. But 100% आमे कहि परिबानी जे सबु काउ को आमे परीक्षा करी कि कहिलु सबु कालिया रंग बोली. Again, there is a small but peculiar class of statement whose verifiability has a different status in the affirmative than in the negative. That is, the earth will continue to exist even after living things do no longer exist on it. So here one says that पृथ्वी रहिथिबो रहिछि आगुकु भी रहिबो जदि भी प्राणी एठी न बंची की रहिले. अच्छा जदि कोनोसी मनीष रहिलानी ताले परीक्षा करी कि कहिबो किए जे कथाडा सत्य बोली. So this particular statement is very ambiguous to be verified. At least one human being should be left behind to see whether the world is existing or world has also collapsed along with the human being. Then confirm word ru asichi confirmability. What does that mean? Confirmability instead of verifiability. Here one can confirm it by examining thousands of crows and finding all of them to be black. So here we are able to confirm a thing that we have seen 1000टा काउ और ता भितरु आमे कहलु 1000 जण जाक काउ ब्लैक कलर हेले. आकु आ वेरीफाई करिवार किछि स्कोप रहिला नाही. So here confirmation is something else and verification is something else. One must know whether P describes a logical possible situation before one can know whether it is logically possible to test it. आम पाखरे सेई टाइप रो सेटअप अछि कि नाही, गोटे जिंस को ठीक भाबरे परीक्षा करी हेई परिबो कि नाही, सेईटा परीक्षा हेला भलिया ता देहरे योग्यता अछि कि नाही, सेतक थिले तो परीक्षाटा करबा. जो जिंसटार परीक्षा हबार योग्यता नाही ताकू मु केमिति परीक्षा करी. So here one has to know whether a sentence means before one knows what one observing. So one has to have the deeper meaning of it. One should be sure that that particular thing can go through the process of verification and experimentation then only we can say that experiment hei paribo, verify hei paribo, or verify kariki result bahari paribo. So analytical statements cannot be verified, that is the mathematical ones. Then questions or imperative or exclamation statements seta bhi hei paribani. Statements about your own experiences, as a student was asking that knowledge was individualistic or no, here we can say that own experiences or personal feelings don't come under this verification part, therefore they are not to be considered as knowledge. Then for example, statements like good, praiseworthy, or value statements, these also don't come under that. And here we see these are some of the statements, they lack the quality of verification. What do you mean by refutation? So refutation is what? When the event is incompatible with the theory in question, it can be refuted. You can take a particular thing and try to experiment it against the theory. से theory को रखा गला आ गोटे जिनसटा ता सहित परीक्षा करिकी कंपेयर करिकी देखा जाउची केतेटा एई जिनसर कांसेप्टटा केते दूर थियोरी सहित मैच करूची. जो मोमेंट रे थियोरी सहित ए जिनसर कोनोसी क्वालिटी मैच कला नाही, at that moment we say that we are rejecting that particular thing or refuting that particular thing because it has no compatibility. ता सहित तार किछि सामंजस्यता नाही, there is incompatibility, therefore we are refuting a particular thing. Then what are assumption and their limitation? ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷର ଯୁକ୍ତିଯୁକ୍ତର ଏଣ୍ଡ ଯାଏ ପହଞ୍ଚି ପାରୁନୁ, ଆମେ ଆଜ୍ୟୁମ୍ କରୁ ଏଇଟା ହେଇଥାଇ ପାରେ, ଏଇଟା ହିଁ ବୋଲି ଆମେ କହିପାରିବାନି, ଏଇଟା ହେଇଥାଇ ପାରେ. ଯୋଉ ପାରେ ଜିନିଷଟା କହୁଛୁ, that is your assumption. Assumption means taking for granted the truth of a proposition for the sake of the argument. It is a technical name for the minor premises of syllogism. Here, assumption is accepted as having the least specific meaning in the family of the terms like axiom, hypothesis, and postulates. So here, we consider it as something relating to a tentative solution. आपको धरी नियो, एई अनुसार धरी नै कि आमे आगे जिबा, आगु को जाई कि देखिबा जे जोउटा आमे धरी नेइथिलु ता ठीक थिला कि भूल अछि. Okay? Then sharing the knowledge, sharing of knowledge. So man discovers knowledge through experiences, re-examines it, knowledge when in doubt, then discard the theory in the advent of some new ideas and theory. So whenever he faces some doubts, he re-examines it against the theory and finds out whether that particular thing which he is having doubt, whether that particular thing is acceptable or not. And after that, the knowledge is shared and there is the growth in the process of knowledge. Then we move on to see what are the different types of schools in Indian context, that is the ancient Indian concept and the nature of knowledge. So the ancient Indian concept and the nature of knowledge says that we are having different schools or Indian philosophy who give different opinions regarding the origin of knowledge, the types of knowledge, the nature of knowledge. For example, 6 schools of thought are there. And these all schools, they have a strong belief that knowledge comes from perception, inference, verbal testimony. 6टा स्कूल ऑफ थॉट अछि फिलॉसफी इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट रे, जो 6टा स्कूल समस्ते गोटे कथा रे तांकर सम्मत जणाउछन्ती कोन, गोटे हला परसेप्शन दैट इज प्रत्यक्ष, इन्फरेंस अनुमान, verbal testimony that is your शब्द. These are the 3 things which are taken into consideration. Again, classical or medieval periods. These are the 2 periods where we find Indian philosophy's different school of thought for getting knowledge. Three periods से divide है Indian philosophy: Vedic period, post Vedic period, और Upanishadic period. Vedic ta first, second is your Upanishadic, third is your post Vedic. So here we see Gautama's Nyaya, Kanananda's Vaisesya, Kapila's Samakhya, Patanjali Yoga, Jamini Purva Mimasa, Badarayana Uttara Mimasa or Vedanta, Jain's philosophy, Buddhist philosophy, and materialist philosophy. Jain, Buddhist, or materialist, these are the three who did not agree to the concepts found in Veda. এই তিন জন agree কରୁ নଥିଲେ Vedic philosophy ସହିତ। रेस्ट जो मान को नाम मु कहिली सेई माने समस्ते एकमत थिले Vedic concept सହିତ। First materialistic school of thought होची चार्वाक। चार्वाक तांकर कोन मतामत थिला? Here he says that the materialists did not believe in an afterlife. मृत्यु परे किछि लाइफ बोली अछि कि पुनर्जन्म अछि, they were not in favor of that. They only believed upon sense perception and focused upon four traditional elements: earth, water, fire, air. एई चारटा जिंस ऊपर फोकस करूथिले। आमर जो इंद्रिय गुड़ा अछि से गुड़ा केमिति काम करूची आ ता दियरु जो ज्ञान आसुची ता ऊपर फोकस करथिले। मृत्यु परे जे किछि जीवन अछि कि पुनर्जन्म अछि आ सहित तांकर किछि नॉलेज तांकर लिंक करू नथिला। आउ कोन? Here they focused upon to move from known to unknown. That is, knowledge for them is to be correlated for something known to moving on to higher order of knowledge, that is नुआ जिंस जानिबा। जानि थिबारु अजाना जागा को proceed करिबा। Then they had two things. It was in the 4th century BC, Nyaya school was there, and two things were taken into consideration. One is what? Analytic. Another one is what? Analytic, and therefore more concerned with logic and epistemology. And here it was found in the 4th century BC. And according to this particular school, knowledge comes from perception, inference, comparison, and verbal testimony. And the four sources, चारिटा source जहा दियरु ज्ञान आहरण करि हेई परिबो: perception, inference, comparison, Vedic word. And according to them, these are the main pillars जहा ऊपरे की ज्ञानटा फोकस हेकी थिला, जहा ऊपरे ज्ञान तयारी हेई परिबो। The knowledge was built upon these four things. Then according to वैशिष्ठा philosophy, वैशिष्ठा philosophy कोन ना एडा सबुटु पुराना कानंदा विषय कहिथिले। ये कोन कहउचंती ना here three objects ऊपर importance दिया जायछि। What are they? Real object existence, namely substance, quality or activity. Intellectual discrimination, generality, particularity and combination. And this also focuses upon perception, inference, comparison and verbal testimony. ताहले आंकर भी गौतम कथांक सहित मिसुथिला, where perception, inference and comparison and verbal testimony was given consideration. Then Mimamsa had focus upon what? That is interpretations of Vedic rituals, and they also focused upon cognition, which apprehends an object, cannot be intrinsically invalid. Memory arises from the impression of the priori cognition and therefore cannot be treated as valid knowledge. सेमाने मेमोरी को valid knowledge बोली धरु नथिले। इमीडिएटली सेंस ऑर्गन नु जो ज्ञान प्राप्त होतला ताकू ही रियल नॉलेज बोली धरुथिले. एंड one should observe a thing very minutely. किछि भी ऑब्जर्वेशन रे त्रुटि रहिबो नाही. जदि ऑब्जर्वेशन रे त्रुटि रहिला ताले परसेप्शन रे प्रॉब्लम आसीबो. परसेप्शन रे प्रॉब्लम आसिले जजमेंट रे प्रॉब्लम आसीबो. So in this way all these things are interconnected or interrelated. What about the heterodox school of views? Heterodox school of views semane kon kare na Jainism or Buddhism. Jainism or Buddhism are the schools were not in support with the Vedic philosophy. They did not recognize the authority of Vedas. Jainism classifies knowledge into two parts, immediate and mediate. Immediate knowledge is further divided into avadi, mana, paryaya and kevala. Mediate knowledge into mati and shruta. Knowledge may be again divided into two kinds, pramana or knowledge of a thing, naya knowledge of a thing in its relation. ताहले प्रमाण बोली गोटे फाइनली आमे पहुंचलु कोठी ना प्रमाण बोली गोटे जिंस अछि आ न्याय बोली गोटे जिंस अछि. प्रमाण एई जिंसटा अछि आ न्याय कोन एई जिंसर क्वालिटी विषय जो जिंस गुडा आमे कहिबा that is known as your न्याय. Rose is for example प्रमाण and the qualities of rose देखिबा को भलो बासीबा को बढ़िया सुंदर दुसे एई गुडा हला न्याय रे जीव काहे कि सेटा क्वालिटीज रे जाउछ. Again here we have partial knowledge and partial knowledge are having 7 न्यायस. 7 टा अछि तादरे 7 टा रकम and these all they are अर्थ न्याय भितरे relate हेजी relate to objects or meaning and these last 3 are called शब्द न्याय. अर्थ न्याय अर्थ वर्ड रु आछि बोली मीनिंग को रेफर करूची. शब्द न्याय वर्ड रु आछि बोली वर्बल टेस्टिमनी की वर्ड को रेफर करूची. These all are Sanskrit terms. सेथि पई का तार इंग्लिश इंटरप्रिटेशंस गुडा भी साइड बाय साइड you refer your books for that so that you will be able to learn the spellings in the correct way and also pronounce it in a correct way. Then we move on to source of knowledge. Source of knowledge or nyaya, pramana. Pramana is defined as the source or means of valid apprehension. जुक्ति जुक्तर भावरे गोटे जिंस को पाइबा जो जगारु आमे तथ्य संग्रहण कलु सेटा केते दूर ऑथेंटिक वैलिड रिलायबल एंड प्रेजेंटेबल टू द वर्ल्ड. That can be done through perception, inference, analogy, verbal testimony. गोटे जिंस को देखिलु ताकू भितरे मन भितरे इन्फर करके जानिलु केनिलु एनालाइज कलु तन्न तन्न भावरे ता विषय भांगी की चिंता करके देखिलु वर्बली ता विषय आमे शब्द ज्ञान यूज करके कोन भावरे एक्सप्रेस करूछु सबु गुडा इंटरलिंक्ड भावरे अछि. हियर गोटे बिना आ गोटे इनकम्प्लीट एटा सीरियली स्टेप बाय स्टेप करबा को पड़िबो. The farmer cannot arise without the later and here we have to see these all are related with each other. Valid knowledge दी प्रकार थाए, that is presentative and representative. Anubhava is known as to be the presentative part. Smriti जोड़ा को आमे मेमोरी की स्मरण शक्ति जोड़ा को स्मृति सेटा को स्मृति न कहि कि स्मृति हेछि एठी is remembrance or representative. So presentative आगे तो presentative हेले सिना तमे ताकू रिप्रेजेंट करबा आउथरे. So these two are related to each other. In this way we have different kinds of sources of knowledge and number of pramanas are also there. First is what? Pratyaksha or perception. मु गोटे जिंसर आई विटनेस प्रत्यक्ष भावरे मु ताकू देखिछि. The word aksha in pratyaksha means the sense organ and the word prati means each of all the sense organs and as such the word means the function of each of the sense organ in respect of its appropriate object. जहाँ मु देखुची जोटा वास्तवता एक्जाक्टली से देखुची ना मोर सेटा भ्रम. The thing which I am observing, am I observing it and perceiving it in the exact real manner, or some illusion is going on? That is also important. What do you mean by anumana? Anumana or inference, what does that mean? Anumana indicates after knowledge. Anu means after, mana means knowledge. Anumana, mu eta anuman karuchi eya hei thai pare. So here it is a specific form of knowledge perceived by perception. The perception of the invariable relation between the proban and the probandum is a previous perception of such a relation somewhere else. गोटे जिनस को मु देखी जानी सेथिपाइका सेकेंड टाइम जेतेबेले मो विषय से विषय किछि पचरा जाउची मु अनुमान लगे कि कहि देई परिबी जे जिनसर एया एया क्वालिटी अछि नाही. So first the perception should be there, then only basing upon the perception anumana is to be built upon. Then what do you mean by verbal testimony? That is sabda. Verbal testimony, because by it the meaning is verbally communicated. It consists in the knowledge of objects derived from words or sentences. Verbal statement is important. आमे एबे गोटे ज्ञान आउ जणकु दउछु केमिति? Through the process of communication. How is it possible? By the knowledge of language. जदि केवल सुनी सुनी सबु मने रखि तांतु गुरुकुल आश्रम सिस्टम बळ्या, we don't have that much of memory capacity nowadays. So here we should have the knowledge of what? Words, so that we can communicate it properly. Therefore verbal testimony is there. Again we move on to the fourth thing. ता पूर्वरु गोटे कथा हैला उपमान. उपमान माने कोन? Comparison. That is comparing the qualities of a one particular thing with the qualities of another. Upamana or comparison is the knowledge of the relation between a name and a thing. So name on the basis of given description of their similarity to some familiar object. For example, गोटे ऑब्जेक्ट को जेतेबेले मु पिलाटा को चिन्हउची, फॉर एग्जांपल एप्पल. गोटे प्री नर्सरी पिला को इफ आई एम टीचिंग द कांसेप्ट ऑफ एप्पल, आई शुड बी एबल टू टेल by showing an apple that this is a fruit, it is red in color, it tastes sweets, and we eat it. In a way, if a child comes out with a tomato and asks, what is the difference between an apple and a tomato? एटा भी लाल दुसुची, एटा को भी आमे खाउछु, एटा भी काटी हबो, एटा भी खाई हबो. I can say that tomato is a vegetable and apple is a fruit. The taste differs. So here one should explain a thing along with its characteristics. गोटे विषय जतले बुझा जाए ता सहित तार जहा जहा चरित्र अछि, क्वालिटी अछि, ता सहित ता संज्ञा की एग्जांपल की कनोटेशन देई कि जदी करा जिवो, then only conceptual clarity हबो. गोटे छोट पिला को शून्य रे थाई कि एप्पल विषय कहि देले हबनी. One has to carry an apple and show it, otherwise the child will not be able to form the concept of apple. एमती हेई पारे सबु जिंस लाल खाउतबा जिंस को से एप्पल कहबो. Then what is the difference between a cherry? What is the difference between a strawberry? Then what is the difference between a tomato and an apple? So he'll get confused. Then presumption, arthapati. It is an independent source of knowledge according to this particular thing. Assumption is some unperceived fact in order to explain apparently inconsistent fact. So here, for example, आमे गोटे जिंस को परीक्षा करी कि कही कि देखै पारुनु एग्जांपल सहित. For example, a boy is fat, but that particular boy is not eating during the daytime. गोटे पिलाटा मोटा पिलाटा किंतु से दिन बेला जमा खाऊनी एथुरो आमे जानी परिबा जे से मोटा केमती हला न खाई तो हबनी सो हियर वी विल से दैट दिन बेला जदी खाऊनी ताले निहाती भाबरे आमे कोन करि परिबा प्रिज्यूम करि परिबा presumption is that he must be eating at the night so अर्थपतिर माने कोन प्रिजम्पशन जो जिनसटा एबे देखा जाउनी ताकू आमे प्रिज्यूम करिकी तार तथ्यर कारण पर्यंत पहुंची पारिबा हियर नॉन एप्रिहेंशन और अनुपलब्धि अनुपलब्धि उपलब्धि द ऑपोजिट अनुपलब्धि is that so here it consists in the presentative knowledge of negative factors. Negative facts are cognized by a special instrument called non-perception. The things which we are not able to perceive come under the category of non-perception. Upalabdhi, what things? That is perception is there. Anupalabdhi, those things where perception is not there. So our sense organs should work properly. Our sense functions only in the cognition of the ground, but if we do not perceive the non-existence, for example, गोटे बोतलटा अच्छी ग्राउंड उपरे जदि सेई माटीरू बोतलटा को आमे अलगा जगह रे कोठी रखी देलु ता माने नुह जे बोतलटा आउ बोतल अस्तित्व नाही जे बोतल एग्जिस्ट करूनी बोतल मे बी देयर इन some place other in some another place so here one has to understand the meaning of non-existence one has to understand the relationship between the platform where the bottle was kept जदि से बेसटा अछि बेस ऊपर जदि बोतल अलगा जगह रे रखा हमने नुह the bottle is dead or bottle is not there जोडा कि छोटो पिलांकर न थाए धरथिबा गोटे जिंस तमे यदि लुचेई दबो हजी गला बोली कहबो they think out of sight and out of mind so they are not able to do उपलब्धि से माने देखि पारु नांदी जानि पारु नांदी परसीव करि पारु नांदी लुचेई देला बेला को भाबिले ए जिंसटा हजी गला पळेई गला आउ जिदी करबेनी ही मागिबे ना then the theory of knowledge is issued later what does that mean so according to Charvakya theory of knowledge is thorough ongoing positivism wherein the reality of whatever we perceive is accepted and those that cannot be perceived is rejected that is perceive hele dekhile observe kari parle tahale hi satyata achi na dekhi parile न ताकू जानी पारिले ताहाले ता देरे सत्यता नाही से जिंसर अस्तित्व ही नाही that was the thing which has been focused here time and again so according to this particular thing we say that sense organ is important perception is important inference is important analogy is important and your verbal testimony is important एइटार जदि chronological way रे follow हबो ताहाले इंडियन फिलॉसफी अनुसारे छटा जाक स्कूल एथरे एकमत आउ एई हिसाब रे ज्ञान अर्जन करा हैतला करा होउची एंड अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस करा भी आगु को हबो सो कांसेप्ट एंड नेचर ऑफ नॉलेज दैट इज ज्ञान योगो दैट इज पतंजलि कर कोन थिला कंट्रीब्यूशन ना योगो ऊपर योगो सूत्र ऑफ पतंजलि इज द ओल्डेस्ट टेक्स्ट बुक ऑफ द योगो स्कूल again the theory of knowledge that is chitta practice of yoga is what as a means of attainment of the doorway of liberation जदि आमे योग विद्या भल भाव practice करिबु that will help in the attainment of moksha prapti or liberation again the different kinds of chitta modification what does this chitta modification mean that is modification of knowledge we are having three kinds of guna rajas sattvic tamas is the darker side rajas comes in between and sattva guna sabutu highest. So the process or the importance of this particular philosophy is that how to attain this sattva guna so that atma paramatma ka saita leena hai paribo. Attainment of liberation is only possible when you internalize your own thought process. You are able to look within. निजे निज भितर को जदि आत्म समीक्षा करिकी सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन करि परिबो ताहाले जायकी आम आत्मा परमात्मा को खोजिकी पाई परिबो जोटा पाइका आमर ब्रह्मचार्य गृहस्थ बानप्रस्थ सरी सारला परे सन्यास आश्रम रे ते समस्ते भी पाइचंती बोली नाही केही केही पाइचंती केही पाई भी नाहंती थ्रू द प्रोसेस ऑफ मेडिटेशन. So the first thing one has to see that आर कौन सब डिविजन हेची गोटे हला राइट कॉग्निशन गोटे हला रॉन्ग कॉग्निशन आ गोटे हला वर्बल कॉग्निशन. सो हियर राइट कॉग्निशन रे कौन रहउची ना शब्द विद्याटा रहिला वर्बल टेस्टिमनी अनुमानटा रहिला देन योर स्मृति और मेमोरी और प्रत्यक्ष सेटा रहिला. रॉन्ग कॉग्निशन टा आ गोटे कैटेगरी absence of cognition or sleep nidra that is again a category. Then finally the verbal cognition or imagination that is another category. Sabu kinds of modification आ गोटे स्टेट आसे जेतेबेले आउ किछि मॉडिफाई होबा को न थाए that is the final state that is the niruddha that is the predominance of sattva in the mind. Tamas paleibo animal instinct, sexual instinct, all these tamas. Then come the rajas, bhoga karibar ichha, rajyatva karibar ichha, your desires relating to your economic affairs, earning of livelihood. Then dharma achi, dharma, kama, dharma, moksha. These are the four purusharthas. एगुड़ा जदि देकी जीव ताहाले जायकी ठीक जीवन जील बोली कुआ. That is according to our traditions and books and culture and a type of importance दियाछि. Then finally where we find there is no more of mental modification and we find to that is the stage where we can link our soul finally to the soul of Brahma, Atma Paramatma. आउ गोटे हला कथा पुरुष और प्रकृति. पुरुष is the creator, prakriti is the creation. There is a link between them. Without purusha, prakriti is incomplete, and without prakriti, purusha, there is nothing there. Creation बिना creator थिले ही creation हेई पारुछि. Then the Jain theory of judgment. Jainism they believe more than one thing. They have the immediate and mediate knowledge. Avadhi अपरोक्ष और परोक्ष विद्या. परोक्ष विद्या और अपरोक्ष विद्या दीटा अवधि रे कोन कुआ जाईछि that is within the time limit जो ज्ञानटा आनिबो गोटे अवधि थाए गोटे time limit थाए. That is known as the direct thing knowledge which we get within a time limit of space and time. There are limits are there. आउ गोटे कथा हला telepathy, direct knowledge of thoughts of others, that is telepathy, which is limited to space and time conditions. Again infinite knowledge, kevala jnana, is absolute, extraordinary. It is not limited by space time. It can be acquired only by liberated soul. तामने एटा चरम सीमा को पहुंची सारला परे ही पाइबो. Then mediate knowledge, mati and shruta. Mati includes your perceptual and inferential knowledge. Pure perception is required, whereas shruta means derived from authority. Suni की जोटा श्रुति, श्रुति रो श्रुता. सुनी सुनी वैदिक मंत्रस गुड़ा शिष्य माने गुरुकुल आश्रम रे जानुथिले शिखुथिले ताको पुनी रिहर्स और प्रैक्टिस करूथिले. Then we move on to Buddhist theory of causation. बुद्धिज्म टा सबु बळे फोकस कला कॉज एंड इफेक्ट रिलेशनशिप सबु दुखर कारण कोन निर्वाण केमिति आनी हबो these are the things which we have discussed in the Buddhist theory. So here we have to focus upon the law of causation. This view holds that on getting the cause, the effect arises and the existence of everything is conditional. Condition wise, existence of everything is conditional and everything has a cause behind it. And if we know the cause, then only we'll be able to solve a particular problem or situation. And accordingly, we can set up our life. According to the theory of causation, we perceive the power of producing effects and define each unit of such power as amounting to a unit of existence. And as there would be different units of power of different moments, there should be as many new existence. So existence must be regarded as momentary, existing at each moment that exerts a new power. Gote jinsa je chirokala sthayi, that is not the right concept. जो जिनसर जन्म हेची से जिनसर मृत्यु हवा confirm. So nothing is there permanently. So here we see that गोटे पुराना जिनसर अंत परे something new comes out. So new existence comes out and takes the place of the old existence. So pramanas and their implications for education. एते जिनस जो आमे इंडियन फिलॉसफी विषय सुनिलु जानिलु छटा स्कूल तांका प्रमाण तांका नेचर तांकर नॉलेज रो कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स एटा केते दूर उपकृत that is your educational implications in the field of education. How are they going to help? First hochi kono, that is the development of sensory power is important. Perception is to be refined. Entire intellectual development along with the personality development is important. It is important to have a good and balanced life. Intellectual training is important. Cognitive and cognitive aspects are important. That is, yesterday also I was saying that we are having three domains: cognitive domain, psychomotor domain, and affective domain. All of these three combine to give you a balanced persona. That is important. Development of aesthetic values is important. You should be always an inquiring student. यदि जानिबार जिज्ञासा नाही ताले केबे भी ज्ञान थुआ आइतले भी पाइबनी. Just like खाइबा थुआ आइची appetite नाही भोको होउनी खाई होउनी. जदि अधिक delicious मन मुताबिक जिंस थिबो ताहाले उपरा उपरी खाई दबो पछे किंतु जदि भोको नाही ताले इच्छा हबनी खाइबा पे. इच्छा थिले ताहाले ही ज्ञान आहरण करिबो, which the teacher is not capable to force. घोड़ा को कुआ पाखु को कि पानी पाखु निया है परिबो पियाई दियाई परिबो. So here one has to focus upon what balanced persona. You should be focusing upon the harmonious development of all the aspects of personality. Problem solving methods should be focused. Verbal testimony is to be strengthened. Analogy is to be provided. Deductive, inductive reasoning should be taught or methods should be taken into consideration. Project methods should be given. Dialogue and argumentation should be there. Scientific attitude and temper should be developed. And development of knowledge through development of sense organs is also. So in this way, we focus that all these things help in the present educational scenario also. Because nowadays, we are focusing upon learner as a constructor of knowledge. So here, learner as a constructor of knowledge, is considering this particular ideology or this particular psychological thing, way of teaching. Hello? The teacher should be aware how to provide a proper educational platform.
Ma'am, your voice was cracking.
These all so here we have to say that these all things are to be taken into consideration and teachers to see how to create a balanced, psychologized environment so that the learner himself develops the desire to know and accordingly becomes capable enough to acquire the knowledge.
Madam, we are unable to
That
listen
is,
to you clearly. Madam, your voice is
my
breaking.
microphone is. I have to nothing to do with that. I don't know. So then we see that is the medieval or the Islamic Indian concept of nature of knowledge. This particular thing started in the 11th century AD, and according to the Islamic view of knowledge, they say that knowledge comes from God or Allah, and the things that are mentioned in Quran are to be followed. This is the type of knowledge that was provided during the medieval period of time, and here they say God is one, He was present, He is present, and He will be always present. Omnipresence of it. Again, He is the living eternity and He is beyond comprehension. So, here, according to the Islamic view, knowledge comes from God and also from Prophet Muhammad, who was the person who got it directly from God. ताले ज्ञान कोठू आसिला कुरान ठू आसुची आ प्रॉफिट मोहम्मद जो कथा गुडा कहि जाइचंती जो कथा विषय रे कुरान रे उल्लेख होईची सेही कथा गुडा को पालन करिया पेका इस्लामिक फिलोसोफर्स माने फोकस करिचंती अगेन तांको पेका अल्लाह इज द मेन सोर्स ऑफ नॉलेज He is the provider of knowledge and knowledge based on proof. Knowledge based on direct experience through religious devotions. Prophet is revealed by the God. According to their view, they say that knowledge is provided by God and knowledge is also provided to their prophets. Jahanka pakhuru ame gyana arjana kari pariba. They are Maulavis, prophets, the religious gurus. Overall, they want to say that knowledge is directly linked with God. Again, they provide two kinds of knowledge. One is the religious knowledge, another one is the liberal sciences. What are they? Liberal sciences focuses upon different kind of subjects which help us to lead a good life and moreover a religious life. Islamic point of view ru सबु किछि तांकर कथा एंड होतला रिलीजन रे गोटे त रिलीजियस एजुकेशन दउथिले किंतु ता सहित जो लिबरल एजुकेशन भी दिया जाउथला सेथिरे कोन सिखा जाउथला केमिति भलो भाबरे जीवन यापन करिवो which will help to lead to be a good Muslim being. Quran is the fundamental book and जो कथा कुरान ने लिखा है ची according to the Islamic philosophers, they say that nothing in this world is up to the match of Quran. आउ किछि भी जिंस कुरान बही भलिया बही सहित मैच करि परिबनी. It is the most knowledgeable book which exists in this world. Again, Prophet Muhammad को भलिया आउ डिसाइपल नाहंती सीए होउचंदी जे कि डायरेक्ट ज्ञान अल्लाह को पाखरु पाइले थ्रू डिफरेंट विजन दर्शन आसिला भलिया से भगवान ताकू दर्शन हेतिले सेही बाटू से देखिले आ जहा से सुनिचंती जहा से अनुभव करचंती ताही से कुरान रे लिखिचंती आ सेहीटा को ही फॉलो करिया पे कुहाइची. So Islamic scholars argue that if knowledge of the second kind is obtained without the reference of the first, then it will lead to the confusion. So according to the Islamic followers, they say that first one has to have the religious knowledge. After completing the religious knowledge, one should focus upon the liberal knowledge. जो पर्यंत रिलीजियस ज्ञान धर्म जनित शिक्षा तमे प्राप्त करिना हो से पर्यंत तमे डे टू डे लाइफ रो ज्ञान दैनंदिन जीवन रो ज्ञान पाइले तमे ता बुझी परिबनी you will not be able to use it also. There will be confusion for that. So for them, knowledge of religion is first. After that, knowledge of your liberal education or liberal arts is second. Because liberal education is that education which will help you to lead a good religious life and also liberate you from the bondages of sorrow. जोड़ा कि आमे काली भी कहितलु liberal education comes from the word that is liberty or freedom. Liber जोड़ा थिला word टा Latin word टा. So here we have to see that they agree that the forms of knowledge, either material or immaterial, both the things exist, while the later can be known, such as the former cannot be known unless first detached from their materiality. गोटे हेला मेटीरियल नॉलेज आ गोटे हेला इमेटीरियल नॉलेज किंतु मेटीरियल नॉलेज और इमेटीरियल नॉलेज कौन डिफरेंस रहिला ना तमे मेटीरियल नॉलेज नु जदी अलगेइबो नाही ताले मेटीरियल नॉलेज को बुझी परिबो नाही. So there is the concept of detachment which is also found in your Hinduism. मोक्ष प्राप्ति हबा को हेले तमर माया मोह त्याग करिबा को पड़िबो. So this is what one should not have a materialistic attitude. If one has a materialistic attitude, then he'll not be able to understand the real concept of knowledge. Then conception may be divided into known and unknown. So they are also supporters of moving from simple to complex, from known to unknown. जानी थिबारु अजाना जगह को जिबा. सहजरु कष्ट को जिबा, from concrete to abstract. And they say what are the different sources of knowledge? Knowledge should be based on proof. Jodi you don't have any proof, that particular thing is not to be considered as to be knowledge. Knowledge is based on direct experience through religious devotion and revelation. Again, जदि डायरेक्टली गॉड हैज रिवील्ड यू, यदि भगवान तुमको दर्शन बाटे किसी गोटे कहिचंती आ उल्लेख करचंती, तमे ताकू लेखिच टिपिच कि ताकू तमे कोड करि परछ, देन ओनली इट विल बी कंसीडर्ड एज अ रिलीजियस नॉलेज. आउ बाकी जो नॉलेज गुडा रहिला ता पयका यू शुड प्रोवाइड एनफ एविडेंस, अदरवाइज it will not be considered as knowledge. And here we see one theory stresses that this reduction is brought about by moving from known to unknown object. The other says that it is merely the result of direct illumination given by the divine world. That is, your prophetic knowledge comes from up to down. So that downward flow karuchi. Whereas the knowledge of liberal education goes from down to up. गोटे डाउनवर्ड फ्लो होची आ गोटे अपवर्ड फ्लो होची. दीटा जाकर ज्ञान रो इक्वल इंपोर्टेंस अछि. आउ प्रथम ज्ञानटा नथिले द्वितीय ज्ञानटा इनकम्प्लीट कुआ जिवो. दैट विल नॉट बी कंसीडर्ड एज नॉलेज until and unless you have the first knowledge, that is your religious knowledge. Then we see that Muslim philosophers have divided the universal expressions or knowledge or logic into 5 types. One is the genus. Genus refers to the common structure of all specifics. For example, under animalist, there comes human being, dog, cat, and other animals also. Under species refers to the common nature of all individual. For example, human being को जदि गोटे species करिवो, they are known as Homo sapiens. For example, तमे अहमद हो, कमल हो, जॉन हो, जो भी नार मनीष हो, they all come under the category of मनीष. That is human beings. Then difference. Difference refers to what? That is which differentiates the member of the genus, such as rational, which differentiates the species of human beings from other animal species. ताले मनीष मानकु other living beings to केमिति अलगा बोली हमें जानिबा, because human beings are those who are capable of taking decision. They are rational beings. Rationality is there, thought process is there, they are able to think, they are able to judge, they are able to decide, they are capable enough to know what is right and wrong. Then property. Property refers to something that necessarily attaches to one universal, that is capacity for laughter. That is capacity for laughter or laughing is a quality which is attributed to human beings only. Then common accident. Common accident refers to the quality that attaches to more than one universal. For example, here we see that black in color. Black can also be a crow. Black can also be a cow. Cow can also be a black in color. Even human beings can also have black shades also. जो टिके कालिया देखिया पेंका तो ब्लैक जे केवल एनिमल्स पाइन का ପାଇଁ यूज करा हबो ता माने नुहो. So theory of knowledge in Islam issues raised. So here we have to say that Quran and Sunnah are the two sources जोठु की Islamic knowledge टा आसीची. Sunnahs गुडा कोन ना जो जगह रे prophets have given the sayings regarding what is to be done and how is to be done so that an individual leads a good life. Again, one mode is based on the revelation from God to his prophet and sometimes as asserted by sections of scholars to the mystic through the approach of mysticism or Sufism, and the second mode is which is based on rational process of experience and observation by human intellect. ताले prophetic mode कोटा जोड़ा की religious education को mean करूची, for example Sufism को भी mean करूची, आउ philosophical way कोटा को mean करूची ना जोड़ा rational process which is gained through the process of experience and observation. So in this way we see what are the common features of Islamic knowledge, that is they have a domination by Islamic philosophy of knowledge. Again, their concept of knowledge in medieval period was influenced by the Greek philosophers, particularly Plato and Aristotle. Again, two basic source of knowledge was there. One is the prophetic source, another one is the philosophical source. Then we have the Quran and the Sunnah as the main source of knowledge, that is prophetic knowledge, and other knowledge, that is the philosophical knowledge, comes through your observation and experience and experimentation. Then Muslim philosopher believes above that the senses, there is a rational soul which has two parts, the practical and theoretical intellect. The theoretical intellect is responsible for knowledge and the practical is the management of your body parts and your day-to-day life. The data part is theoretical knowledge and practical knowledge. And here there are two types of sciences. One we go for prophetic knowledge, that is the Islamic science, and the another one is the rational knowledge, that is the liberal science. And Islam always lays more emphasis on what, that is how to get right knowledge so that better living will be there, so that human beings will get knowledge to live a better life and more blissful and eternal life. Then what is more important is here how this particular Islamic knowledge is also helpful in this present system of Indian education. That is, Islamic knowledge is considered to be a knowledge revealed by the Prophet Muhammad in the form of Quran, and it also says that one should focus upon what, that is removal of gender biasness. There should not be social injustice. There should be socio-economic equality and equal opportunity should be provided to all. Social justice, cooperation, human discipline, and one should be conscious about his own role and obligation of a person towards the creator. सृष्टिकर्तांका पाई आमर कौन सब कर्तव्य अच्छी से जो अवदान गुड़ा आमको देइचंती केमिति आमर कर्तव्य कौन रहिला सेई तांको पई का आमे कौन करिबा उचित को काम करिले we can be considered as a good religious or a noble being. So these all things are important. And even there were two types of educational institution. One is the maktab, that is the primary. For higher, there were the madrasa. And we see that there are some Mughal emperors who used to provide education both to the Muslims and Hindu scholars. So in this way, we see that they were also providing education to students who do not directly belong to their religion. Again, there was a downfall in this medieval education system after the British rulers, when after the invasions of the Britishers, that is, Britishers introduced two things. One is the modern education system, and another one was that they turned the official language from Persian to English. ଯେତେବେଳେ ଇଂରେଜ ମାନେ ଆସିଲେ ସେମାନେ କ'ଣ କଲେ ପ୍ରଥମ ଥର ସେମାନେ they tried to provide their modern educational system ଯାହାର focus ଥିଲା English language ଉପରେ କାହିଁକି ନା ସେମାନେ ଏଇ type of clerks ତିଆରି କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଇଚ୍ଛା କରୁଥିଲେ ଯୋଉମାନେ ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ administration ରେ ସାହାଯ୍ୟ କରିବେ ସେଥିପାଇଁକା ସେମାନେ ତାଙ୍କର official language ଯୋଉଟା Persian ଥିଲା Islamic rule ବେଳେ medieval time ରେ ସେଇଟାକୁ ବି ବଦଳେଇ ଦେଇକି English as a medium consider କଲେ ତା ପରକୁ Islamic knowledge or Islamic knowledge नुह medieval time रे जो schools गुड़ा थिला जो जगह रे Islamic knowledge सहित liberal education दिया जाउतिला सेटा धीरे धीरे they were there was a downfall in that particular medieval system of education. And here we see that some of the major features and strengths of Islamic concept of knowledge. Knowledge is infinite and it originates and ends in infinity, that is reality of God. Since knowledge is an aspect of diversity, seeking it and expanding it and teaching it are important acts of divine worship. So teaching and learning are considered to be a divine work. And they focused upon lifelong education, and they also focused upon what? That is how to integrate religious knowledge with your liberal education, and different inner experiences of man, history and natural phenomena provide avenues for a new interpretations of teaching. So the basic source of Islam, and thus man should be trained and prepared for the same. So finally the main focus was to prepare a human being who has religious knowledge, along with that knowledge which is helpful to lead a better livelihood. Again, it is open for all. They focused upon education as a lifelong and a continuous process. So in this way, we come to the end of the Islamic knowledge, and finally the end of the block 2 MES-12, that is knowledge in education. So we have completed today's class. Thank you all and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.